Hey there, it's Heike, and welcome back to the Pursue Your Spark podcast. And of course, I'm your go-to gal for fitness, nutrition, and mindset strategies for us women in midlife. Today, we're tackling a topic that I know hits home for so many of us: the sheer frustration and sometimes heartache of trying to keep the weight off we've worked so hard to lose. But don't worry, this episode is all about turning that struggle into strength. I've got my friends, two amazing guests here with me, Jill McCauslin and Chris Brown, the powerhouse behind Becoming Elli, a community where women over 50 come together to celebrate being fit and strong. They're here because they've been in the same shoes, feeling the ups and downs of weight maintenance, and have created a space that reminds us all of the Norse goddess Elli's power, out wrestling none other than Thor himself, showing us the strength that we have within to maintain our fitness gains. Today, we're diving deep into what does it take to maintain your weight loss for good, and Chris and Jill share some of their experience and expertise with us. We're talking real and actionable steps, mindset shifts, and the kind of support that makes all the difference. It's all about finding joy in the journey and making those healthy habits stick for good. So let's dive into our feature content, how to keep weight off for good in midlife. Ready to get unstuck and recharge your midlife? It's Heike Yates here with the Pursue Your Spark podcast, your spot for a straightforward talk on fitness, nutrition, and a can-do mindset. With over a decade of experience, I specialize in empowering women in midlife to break through limiting beliefs and thrive. We'll dive into everything important for women in midlife, from conquering menopause to fine-tuning your metabolism and letting go of old beliefs that no longer serve you. So are you ready to say, yes, I can? Tune in and discover actionable steps that make midlife feel better than ever. This is the Pursue Your Spark podcast. Hey, everybody, super excited that I can introduce you today to two guests. Two of my friends are here with us on the show. We have Jill McCauslin and Chris Brown. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, it's a pleasure being here.
Now, the three of us, we met. No, actually, that's not true. I was on your podcast, Becoming Elli, first. And then last year, we met at the Denver Podcast Movement Conference. You found me on that list, Chris. You were like, hey, I
know
found
her
you here.
Yes.
And so we were hanging out, and Jill was like, this is great. You know, the three of us actually meeting.
It was such a wonderful, so unexpected. It was delightful.
Because when we know each other just from the screen, like a lot of us, and if you watch or when you watch our interview on YouTube, you'll see our lovely faces, and it was lovely to actually get a hug as well. Now, I want to know, our listeners too, because you guys are very private about your personal life, and I want to know a little bit more about you guys. So, Jill, what do you do outside from podcasting, and who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I spent many years doing technical writing and instructional design, which means I developed training materials, and usually they were online learning things. The pandemic sort of put a stop to a lot of that. And when it ended, I thought, I really don't want to go back to that. So I consider myself to be semi-retired. I do the podcasting and those kinds of things, and then I do whatever project comes along that interests me.
That's so freeing.
Yes, I'm fortunate to be able to do that.
That's true. How about you, Chris?
Well, I have a marketing company. I started out in the toy industry for 14 years. I worked on things like My Little Pony and G.I. Joe and Little Tykes. And decided to leave corporate America, start my own company. And I'm still doing a little bit of that, but I would also agree I'm semi-retired. And I find the podcasting is really fun because it involves technology and learning and meeting new people in a way that I never would have imagined. And I really enjoy that. On a personal side, I'm married. I have 2 grandchildren, two grown children, and life is good.
That's awesome. I love it. Now, it's also curious, how did you two meet? Jill, how did you guys meet? This is sort of...
Well, so, the life sometimes just brings people together. But Chris and I lived in the same town, but we both rented office space. We were both self-employed, and we rented office space, not in our town, but across really quite a distance when you think about it. But we were in the offices next door to each other. And so we would talk to each other, and we had both taken up running. And so we had these conversations about running, and then decided to sign up for a relay race together. And just sort of as time went on, we were doing more and more things. And then one day we were going for a walk, and one of us said, "Hey, I've been thinking about making this community for women who are interested in fitness." And the other one said, "Oh, I've been thinking about that too." So we decided it was a lot better to have 2 of us doing it together than separately.
I know. So Chris, how long have you been guys podcasting?
Well, our first podcast came out in January of 2018. So I think that's 6 years. It just seems kind of crazy to think that we actually started the website and the blog in September of 2017. So it's been a long time. We've learned a lot. We're working on episode, 147. We do it twice a month. It's on Tuesdays, about the second and the fourth Tuesday. And I have to say, having a partner like Jill has made it a real pleasure to do this, because I would have quit about 6 times over if it wasn't for her.
I can relate to that because I've been on your show twice now, and you guys are very well organized. The guest knows where he or she's going, and good questions and a good conversation, and being a lonely podcaster on my end. I know I can feel the pain that comes with it.
Right.
It'd be hard to do everything yourself. That's for sure.
True. Now, Jill, what is one of your best habits?
I like to figure out things. I like data. I like to know why I'm doing something and how something works. So I was never a good person to have, here, do this. And I always questioned things. So that probably is both a good thing and a negative thing, but I really do like to figure out what's going on in the background.
I love it. It sounds like my husband.
Well, I do say often, I really like engineers. I don't know what your husband does, but that's what I say.
He likes the technical things, and it's a computer scientist, but it's the same idea,
I like
right?
That.
Now, Chris, what values are most important to you?
Values.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess honesty is probably way up there. I don't think you can really have contentment or whatever without honesty. But consistency is a good one. Reliability, resilience. There's a lot of courage.
Mm-hmm.
I guess those are values that I like. But honesty is probably number one.
Yeah, I agree. I can relate to that. It's like you want to authentic, real people, honest, no big show around it. And I can relate to that. But Jill, I heard you say this many times, but I think you say it just so well. What is Becoming Elli? Fit Strong Women Over 50. Who is Elli? Tell our listeners. I have heard this so many times. You say this with such passion and conviction. I love it.
I love the story of Elli. Elli was the Norse goddess of aging, and this is sort of the extended version of this. Thor came to wherever she lived, and the king of the castle or whatever challenged Thor to wrestle Elli. And of course, Thor looked across the room, and here's this old lady, and he was sort of embarrassed that he was supposed to wrestle her, but he took the challenge, and then Elli defeated him. And so Chris and I just thought, hey, we want to be like Elli.
Fit and strong as we get older.
Yes.
I love it because when we met, I've heard this so many times, and I always love it when you say it. I was like, yes, fit and strong. And when you watch the video, I'll make big bicep Popeye arms. Like, yeah, strength is what it's all about. This is as we get older. Because when we're talking about this, I'm 62, and when I talk to people, women, whether it's for the podcast or my clients or in the courses, one of the things that always keeps coming up, and that's weight loss. And I have become quite resistant to talking about weight loss as the main topic, because I do agree that as we age, we need to get stronger and live healthier and live better, and not by the number on the scale or whatever it is. Yes, there are times when we need to lose weight for health reasons or just to feel better. There's absolutely nothing. But I think the conversation shouldn't only revolve around weight loss. That's as a main topic. Well, how do we feel? How do we live our life? What do we get out of when we're losing all the weight? But that's not our topic today, because we three decided that we want to talk about what happens when you lost the weight you wanted to lose and not to regain it and keep it off. So which one of you, or maybe let's say Jill, how can you relate to that topic?
Well, it's very hard to go through life gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight. And I think it's sort of like any kind of addiction sort of thing, or what bad habits. After a while, it becomes so painful to go through the process again that it's better to just figure out how to be where you want to be. So if you've lost the weight, it's better to not gain it back and then have to go through that process again. And I think there are different ways of doing that, but that to me is a big motivator, to not have to go through the frustration of actually dieting and counting calories and, reducing everything.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I have to agree. Maintaining a weight loss is something that you don't hear a lot about. I mean, everything's about losing weight. And you said you're 62. Well, I'll be 67 in March. And one thing I've discovered as I've gotten older, being stronger helps keep the weight off. It just does, because you have more muscle that helps to burn your calories better. I think that's maybe too simplistic, but I think keeping the weight off, it helps your knees a lot. Some of my friends have had hip replacements, knee replacements. And if that's going to happen for me, I hope it's down the road a ways and I have a lot of strong muscles around it. It's just so important to stay healthy as you age.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely muscle mass, lean muscle mass is the key to go as we're dealing with sarcopenia and losing already muscle mass at the age of early mid-30s as we're getting older.
Isn't that just amazing that it starts that early? And we don't even really know at the time that we're battling that.
Yep. You don't realize it until you get a little bit older, right?
Yep. Very true. Because our tissue gets weaker as we're going then through menopause. So we have that part of that as well to deal with. But you touched on something, Jill, about the diets that we do, how do we lose the weight? And that, I think, is also a critical factor in learning how to maintain the weight. What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
Well, I think you really have to look at a healthy diet. Like, you can't eat the same number of calories with, donuts and processed food, drive-throughs, and, just kind of grazing. If you do that, you'll find that your nutrition is lacking. You'll feel so exhausted all the time, and you're never full. You're never satisfied. So trying to find some healthy foods that you love, that you can make a part of your daily diet, your natural diet, not a diet to lose, but a diet to enjoy life, really helps.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think, Jill?
Well, so you talk about all these different diets that people do, and everyone now says, this isn't a diet, this is a lifestyle, which is true, but it's now become, the lifestyle has become the new diet. But there is something to be said about that, which is that you need to figure out how you want to eat, because if you truly want to go through life and cut out something, then fine. But what happens usually is that someone loses weight because they quit eating carbs, or they quit eating fat, or they quit eating something, and that reduces their calories and they lose the weight. And I know there's other things going on there, but then people start eating bread again, or they eat whatever, and then it begins to creep up. So you really are better off to figure out, how do I want to live, and how do I want to eat, and pursue that. That's a much easier thing to do long term than trying to lose weight and then changing your diet again and figuring out, how do I now not gain that weight back?
Very true. Because when you're thinking, I'm not going to name any of the names of the diets that people go on right now, and like you hit it on the head on the nail, the nail on the head. I think that's what it's called.
We hit the nail on the head. Yes,
nail on the head is making it. Everything's about, this is a lifestyle now. This is your lifestyle, and it's not true, because we're all so individual, and what is a lifestyle for you may not be a lifestyle for me. And when we're looking at diets overall, they all promote eating healthier. But either, in addition to that, either you can't eat this, or you should only eat that, and this is evil food, and this is only good foods. And in my opinion, all foods are good. Depends on what you eat, how much you eat of it, and what is your goal initially as you lost your weight. And looking at all these things is so individual for everybody. And like you said, if I want the bread, I eat the bread. But then I also, look at what it does to my body. What do you think along those lines, Chris?
Well, I'm one that does eat bread, but I'm real careful about what kinds of bread I eat. As in, I love Ezekiel bread. It's pretty expensive. It's in the frozen foods. I really like Dave's Killer bread, but I try not to eat the just plain old white bread with basically no nutrition in it. And I don't make bread a main part of my meal. Panera bread, I love Panera bread, but I'll probably go for, something that has more seeds and, whole grains and things like that. So it's a healthier version.
Yeah. Yeah. Jill, do you think that there has to be a different strategy from losing weight to maintaining your weight?
I think there is a bit. I think that, exercise or physical activity actually becomes more important as you're trying to maintain your weight, whatever your weight is, you're trying to maintain it. And so exercise becomes really important. I also think that tracking, so I said I like data, but I think paying attention to where you are is important, so that whether you weigh yourself or whether you wear a certain piece of clothing that you check yourself on, whatever, periodically, because it's easy to have things sort of begin to slip. And if you don't pay attention, then you end up that's how you end up saying, geez, I lost 20 pounds. Now I've gained 10 of them back. Now I've got to take those 10 off. And it's much easier if you just sort of stay on top of it so that, when you go through the holidays, when you come out of it, you say, oh, look, I gained a couple of pounds. Instead of just saying, well, okay, you can actually sort of plan, how am I going to live with this? Or, do I need to do something? Do I need to adjust what I'm doing? But I do think, going back, I think the exercise part is probably the most important.
Yeah, because we talked about nutrition, and we're saying, okay, so diets may not be the way to go for a long-term solution to not feel deprived, to feel satisfied, and to eat from all the food groups and not be limited to only certain groups because somebody said so and that it works. And as soon as you eat that food, you'll gain all the weight back, which we've heard so many times. And I'm sure you heard stories about this from your guests as well on the podcast, that this is not the way to go, but a diet or a nutrition approach that is sustainable over a long period of time, but also satisfying and keeping the weight at bay. And now, as we're switching into a little bit of the exercise part, as you're the Fit Strong Elli, Chris, what do you think? What exercises would you recommend for people that say, okay, I got my diet dialed in, and we'll go back and forth a little bit on this more, but what would be great exercises to do from your point of view?
Well, I would say start where you are, so I may pick something that's a little too aggressive or a little too light, depending on, where you are in your cycle of exercise. Cardio is where a lot of people go right away. Let's do a little time on the treadmill. But as a woman in midlife, definitely strength training. I mean, you really have to work on maintaining muscle mass, because every day you don't do it, a small piece goes away. I wouldn't say a percentage every day, but sometimes it feels that way. So it's definitely strength training. And I also like yoga too, from the standpoint of, focus and meditation and flexibility, balance, that type of thing. So there's probably more than those three areas, but if you have to pick one, and many people, particularly women, are adverse to doing strength training right out of the gate, but that's probably the most important one.
Hey, it's Heike. I want to jump in and tell you about a program I'm offering. If you're ready to take control of your life and feel vibrant again, then the Pursue Your Spark Blueprint is for you. It's an 8-week online group coaching program for women in midlife. On this life-changing journey, you'll start a healthy intermittent fasting routine, lose body fat, improve gut health, and boost your energy. And boy, will you feel stronger after the course. With our course, you won't feel like you need to start over each time life gets in the way. Our tailored Pilates and strength training exercises, combined with a built-in accountability system, will make sure that you build lasting and consistent habits. We're not just about physical transformation. We're here to help you build a confident mindset to make guilt-free, smart health choices. Imagine going mountain biking or fitting into last year's clothing without a hitch. That's the energy and vitality the Pursue Your Spark Blueprint brings. Ready to prioritize your health? Click the link in the show notes to apply. It's time to invest in yourself, because you are worth it. Well, so we have the word strength training, and I've learned from my end that people say, what the heck is strength training? What does it mean? Jill, you want to answer strength training? What does it mean? What do we do for strength training?
Well, I mean, you can go to the gym and you can pick up weights and bars and dumbbells and use them, but you can also, you can be in your house and do a push-up or whatever and use your body for strength training. It's basically putting pressure on resistance on your muscles so that your muscles, even if you're not worrying about building more muscle, you need to at least worry about maintaining your muscle. So, and so doing things at home or using resistance bands, or there's lots of thoughts on how people use their household things to. So I just picked up a 40-pound bag of dog food and carried it around not because I thought, hey, this would be a great workout, but I needed to get the dog food. And I actually was thinking, oh, it's a good thing to be doing, to be strong enough that I'm not dragging I'm not having to drag it across the floor. I could actually pick it up and carry it. And, but I could have, I guess, started doing some curls with that bag.
Or squats, maybe.
Yeah, hold it. Yeah. So anyway, there's lots of things you can do, but it's that resistance of keeping your muscles moving, contracting.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And it could be anything. I'm like, you said, use the cat food, the dog food for an example. I mean, I have heavy kitchen pots, and I've done a reel for Instagram where I hop around with my pot and I'm doing presses, and it was a workout. Or I do my push-ups on the kitchen counter. And
yes.
So strength training is everything that creates resistance in your muscle bellies. Like you said, Jill, doing bicep curls for contraction and releasing the muscle to build that strength that we need, even though we don't need to, as you said, Chris, build more, but we're losing. So we're pushing the uphill battle, the rock up the hill with losing muscle mass, having gone through menopause, or some of the listeners are still in menopause, and losing all that muscle mass, even unbeknownst to us. So strength training becomes very important for those reasons, for weight maintenance, but also for bone density and muscle strength and endurance. Now, I want to backtrack a little bit to the mindfulness that Jill had talked about, that I like to track things. And people may be averse to the word tracking. You can journal it for all I care. Write it down. That's what I say. Write it down somewhere. And that to me is, like you said, Jill, it shows whether there's progress or we're sliding back, or where are we in our journey you mentioned the holidays. That is often a time where people gain 5 to 10 pounds during the holiday because they're not mindful. Jill, how can people get more mindful about the process of maintaining their weight? What are some strategies?
Well, as I said, I think you should pay attention to where you are. So that may be jumping on the scale every day or once a week or whatever works for you. I think tracking your exercise, deciding what you're going to do in a week or a month, however you want to do it, maybe set goals for yourself, so that you actually have a plan on how you're going to get that exercise. So if you're going to do some cardio, that's why people like to do their step challenges, that you can at least pay attention to how many steps am I getting a day. And I don't know that the 10,000 is actually like the definitive number, but I think if you pick a number and try to build on it a bit, you'll know if you're improving. Many years ago, when I first started wearing a pedometer, I was shocked because I was getting about 2,000 steps a day, because I worked in an office and, I worked in an office and I sat in my chair and I did my work.
Very true. There's so many people that work in offices, once they start measuring their steps or their activities, they are blown away how little they move.
Yes.
Right.
So just trying to move more is a big thing. And that could be, getting up and moving around. If you're sitting on the TV, watching TV, then get up and move around when there's a break. Now that we stream things, there aren't even the commercials to give you the cue to, it used to be get up and move to go, whatever. But still, you need to get up and move periodically.
One of my favorite things to do was get up and do the stairs, go all the way to the top, then all the way back down. Even if you just do that once an hour, stairs are great.
Mm-hmm. Now, both of you are runners. So I'm thinking with Chris, so what do you think the importance might be for somebody that's trying to maintain their weight loss? What kind of cardio should they do to keep supporting their weight loss? Is there something that you maybe have also learned from your own experience as runners, ladies? That
I would say I'm a former runner because of an injury, and I pushed myself too far even when it was hurting. So I became more of a bicycler. You have to really listen to your body. But I think the cardio is very important. And some people really enjoy swimming over whether, bicycling or running. And if you like all three, then you're a triathlete, right? So
yes.
That's cool. So what would I suggest? Baby steps when you're starting. Don't try to do everything at once. I had a friend that signed up for a 5K and that was her first adventure. That's too much if you haven't worked up to it. Intervals, as in run from one telephone pole to another telephone pole, walk from one telephone pole to the next telephone pole, and keep track of everything and build up slowly. There's lots of training plans online. If you want to do a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, Hal Higdon has a free one online that you can download. But again, it's very individual, for prior injuries, how much weight you're currently carrying. I've heard that, 1 pound on your body is like 5 pounds on your knees. So if you're going to just start running, you may want to do a different activity like swimming until you're at a weight level where you're not really pushing too hard on some of the joints.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, with weight maintenance comes also the frustration, and we touched a little bit on that, of I gained weight back again. Oh, now I have to start all over again. Oh, the frustration of gaining and regaining some of the weight and sometimes all the weight. Jill, what do you think? What's your thoughts on that?
I think there's a mental component to it. I think sometimes we start feeling down about things. And so then when you start to gain the weight, it's easy to just sort of add that as to your list of your miseries. So sometimes you have to address that more than the actual weight.
One thing I've noticed when I have a weight gain, I take a look at my sleep patterns, because that sounds silly because you don't think much about sleep when it comes to gaining or losing weight. But if I haven't had enough sleep and I haven't had regular sleep where I have the deep sleep, I find that I gain weight, whether I'm eating the same or not. So for me, number one is sleep. And it kind of goes along with taking a rest after a strenuous workout and letting your body recover. So a lot of it's listening to your body, but not listening to your mouth, because sometimes, and I say mouth sort of jokingly, but your taste buds, or emotional eating, trying to come up with strategies when you're feeling upset and you just want to get an ice cream to make it all better. Have some other strategies to do when you're feeling emotional and upset so that you don't eat your feelings, as they say.
Well, I would also add, so check your sleep, but also your water intake and maybe even your electrolytes. I don't know, but make sure so as we age, it gets sometimes that cue, that thirst signal gets a little blurred for people. Mm-hmm. And it's hard sometimes to remember to drink your water. But that is an important part of maintaining a healthy weight, is just being hydrated. And many of us mistake thirst for hunger. So, and when you might be better off to just go have a glass of water or whatever your beverage is that you drink, and instead of eating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely the sleep component, then the mental component of how we feel about certain things. We're angry, we're fussy, or we're not drinking enough water, are definitely also one of the the pitfalls that come along with weight maintenance when you're thinking about, I reached my weight. Now I'm yippee-yay, I got it all. And now I can just let slide all the good habits that I may have developed over time, which brings me to habits. What habits would be ideal once you reach that? We were talking the maintenance of the weight. So you are in your 5-star happy phase. You finally lose the weight that you've been wanting. And you're like gung-ho about wanting to maintain it and doing your best, even if it's just slide back and forward. But what are some of the habits that we need to have that would be beneficial for that? Who wants to go? Chris?
Well, I would say number one for me would be exercise, and it doesn't have to be huge, strenuous exercise every day, but every day something. And I'm a morning person, so I like to do my exercise in the morning. It kind of sets the tone for the day. And it also helps me from overeating because, hey, I just, did some exercise, but it wasn't a whole lot. So I'm not going to go wild eating today. But I find exercise every day really does help for me, whether it's a walk or yoga or, strength training, a little bit of cardio, I try to mix it up so it doesn't get boring, but every day, some exercise.
Jill?
I think exercise is a big one, but another habit or routine that I think helps is meal planning. It doesn't have to be really elaborate, but it has to be at least to the point where you know what's in your refrigerator and that you have a vague idea of what you're going to eat for your meals, because standing there while you're hungry and rummaging around in your pantry or refrigerator is not conducive to having those healthy meals we were talking about. And it's also more conducive to running out to the drive-through or having food delivered, and so knowing what you're going to eat and having it available. I mean, it's not just it's having it in your house, being prepared to actually, so when you come in the door, you can say, hey, tonight I'm having this soup that I got out of the freezer, whatever. That's a big component of staying healthy.
So we have meal planning, we have exercise, a variety of exercises and cross training. What else do you think? Maybe from your own experience, or what you have listened to from your guests that said, "Oh, this is I hate to say trick, but this is the thing."
Yeah, I don't think there is the thing. I don't think there is a silver bullet, but prepping food and having it all ready, maybe roasting vegetables right after you go to the grocery store and have them packed away. So even if you are hurried, you have something ready that, with a quick microwave. Mm-hmm. And that sort of piggybacks on what Jill said, having a meal plan of sorts really helps.
I think it also helps periodically to track your food. I don't think you want a lifetime of having to log food, because that's maybe not the habit you want. But if you're noticing that maybe the weight's starting to creep on, or I'm not feeling quite right, log your food and see what you're eating. I mean, I don't want that to sound like you wouldn't know what you're eating, but it's sometimes eye-opening when you look at it and think, maybe I need to cut out those protein bars that I've been eating every afternoon.
Yeah, so many of the protein bars are really carb bars, not protein bars.
And sugar too, lots and lots of sugar.
Lots of sugar, yes. And those are the things that are so easy to just,
right.
They market them, and it doesn't even have to be protein bars, but there's a lot of bars out there that are sort of marketed as being healthy choices, and they're not candy bars. So,
but if you compare it to a Snickers, they're exactly like a Snickers.
Every afternoon, I eat one.
Yep.
And then again, it comes to me, I can't, this is not a good choice. So then I have to cut them out. But things sneak into your routine. And that's why I think sometimes just logging your food and seeing where you are and making adjustments is helpful.
Yeah. I mean,
especially lean proteins, that's something that you don't reach for when you're hungry necessarily. And that's a really important part of a meal for me, is to make sure I have a lean protein.
Yeah, my rule is you have to have protein with every meal. That's my rule when I talk about nutrition with people. I'm like, have a protein with every meal. Could be a yogurt, it could be a chicken, it could be beans, legumes, but protein with every meal, because protein keeps you full longer, more satisfied for longer. Or have some nut butter. But the choice that we make, it's still up on us to educate ourselves and say, hey, if I write it down, my MyFitnessPal has a category for that, or my Lose It, or whatever it is, apps to do that. Do you have a favorite app of tracking?
I use Chronometer. I've used MyFitnessPal. I used to use many years ago Spark People.
Oh, yeah.
And which I liked, but they closed down, and I don't know what they do now, but I lost all that data and all those recipes I had entered. So I tried MyFitnessPal and then ultimately changed to Chronometer, and I do like it.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I like MyFitnessPal. That's probably my favorite food one.
Yeah. Nice. So when we're looking into the weight management, how important is community? Chris?
Well, I feel like that was the component that I was missing after I lost my weight, because so much of the communities are out there for weight loss. And, hanging out with Jill, doing relay races and other running things with her, doing bike rides with another group of friends, that community really helped me to focus on eating healthy, but being healthy and staying healthy. I think community is very important. They say you are sort of a sum of your 5 best friends, and if you think of your 5 best friends, if they are fast food eaters or heavy eaters, then chances are you are. Or if they're healthy eaters, very active, chances are you are. So community, I think, is pretty darn important.
Jill?
Oh, I think community can be a different thing. So just like, your bicycling group or your hiking group or whatever, that's a community. Your people that at the gym can be a community. We have online, so like we have the Becoming Elli Facebook group where people can talk about what they're doing. I think all of those things are important, and they help, because if you become solely reliant on trying to do everything yourself, it's hard. Or if you only have one support person, and that person, you have one friend that you talk to about this, and that person's job changes and they're no longer available to you, that means you then have no support. So it's good to sort of look for support in a variety of places. And
good point.
But community is big. It helps with that mental health part. It helps with getting you out moving. And it also helps, when you're picking a restaurant to go out to eat, that you're not necessarily where you choose to go might be different with that friend.
Jill, what would be some words of encouragement for somebody who's trying to maintain their weight loss?
I would say if you've lost weight and you're trying to maintain it, you've done in some ways the hard part. You figured out how your body works, what works for you. And so you sort of know what you need to do. The thing is to find what keeps you going. And I personally feel like you feel better if you can keep yourself sort of where you are and build on your physical health, your muscles, your cardiovascular system, all of that. You just feel better. And I think if we can keep but I think everyone can do it. I mean, I think it's not a mystery. You just need to do it. Just do it.
Good. What about you, Chris?
Well, it's nice to think back to how you were before and what you can do now that you couldn't do before, whether it's ride a certain ride at an amusement park or walk with, your group of friends or grandkids, chase them and pick them up. Different things resonate with different people. But if you picture yourself before you lost the weight and then how you are now and focus on that vision of yourself in your new body. Because it took me a while to kind of get used to a new body. I still pictured myself in the old way. And it's a different body image, So, trying to keep that visualization and gratitude for the things that you can do now that you weren't able to do before, that helps. It helps me anyway.
I think photographs are fantastic for that.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing those before and after kind of photos it's eye-opening. Sometimes you look at those pictures and you think that I was 10 years younger there, but I look 10 years older.
Right.
That's a big motivator to have that physical sign of it.
Yeah. No, Chris, you touched on something that I hadn't thought about before, and that is the body image of oneself. And I just recently spent a little bit of time with a new friend of mine, and he has lost 100 pounds. And as I was standing next to him and we were being interviewed, he was checking his body, and I noticed that. And afterwards I said, "Why were you checking yourself?" And he said, "Well, I just wanted to make sure that I'm not like I was before." And I said, "What does that mean? Can you tell a little bit more about that kind of a feeling, the person I was before to the person I'm now?"
Yeah. It's a change in your mental image of yourself. It took me a very long time to even consider myself as an athlete when I was doing half marathons and riding my bike 150 miles in a weekend and, things like that. To me, that's an athlete. It's not someone who's just super casual about being fit. But in my mind, I was still back to, much more sedentary and not someone who was a go, go, go kind of person. It took a while to kind of embrace that. And, whether it's picking different clothes to wear or, how you think of yourself, what things you will say yes to that are easy to do now, like a hike in the woods with, where you're going to be going up and down and, some challenging territory. It's just different. So it's not just a physical journey, if you have significant amount to lose.
Mm-hmm. You have any thoughts, Jill?
I remember, so I agree with what Chris said, but I remember one time doing something in my house needed to be done. And I thought, who am I going to get to help me with this? I can't do it. And then I thought, wait a minute, I have muscle now. I'm strong. So I just went and did it. But I actually my first thought was I was not capable of lifting. I was changing windows on a porch, and I thought I couldn't do it. But then it came to me, oh, wait a minute, I actually can do this. But our ways of thinking are ingrained in us from a long time. And I was never an athlete as a young person or particularly strong. So coming to it later in life, I don't always remember that I actually have the ability to do things.
Mm-hmm. It's true. We're learning so many behaviors from our parents, from the people around us, and we haven't dealt with those emotions and the things that we think about ourselves. Instead of celebrating ourselves and our success, we're doubting ourselves, especially after like we're talking weight loss today, a big weight loss, or whatever big means for anybody. It doesn't have to be 100 pounds. 10 pounds could be a lot for somebody else. It does. So there's no number that defines that. But I think it's a good, I think a good point we have arrived where we said, mindset is something we all need to embrace and be more kinder to ourselves and more graceful, and thank ourselves for the things that we have accomplished, or lift the 40-pound dog food bag and going for their bike ride. So I want to thank you both for coming on the show today and talking about how to maintain the weight loss after you finally did it. So can you tell our listeners where they can reach and connect with you, please?
Well, our website is becomingelli.com, and Elli is spelled ELLI.
Jill?
And you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, LinkedIn,
And X.
Oh, and
Twitter.
X. X. Well, yes, we're still on X, formerly known as Twitter. And we are Becoming Elli on those places. The podcast is actually called Fit Strong Women Over 50. So if you go to wherever you listen to your podcasts, Fit Strong Women Over 50 is what you'll find us under.
We have a private Facebook group too, where we talk with women who, over 50 about their challenges and successes.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for coming on the show. And I know I will see you soon in August back here in DC.
Yes.
Awesome.
Looking forward to that.
It was a delight. Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us in our discussion today about how to maintain your hard-earned weight loss. I leave a link in the show notes so you can connect with Chris and Jill, but I also want to hear from you. Please reach out to me at heike@heikeyates.com with the subject line maintenance, and let me know how this episode resonated with you and what other questions you may have that we didn't address during the episode. In addition, I also want to remind you to book your 20-minute Spark Breakthrough Call. If you're feeling stuck in your midlife wellness journey, this is a chance to get together with me, and I invite you to a no obligation 20-minute Spark Breakthrough Call, as I like to call it. It's your chance to uncover what's holding you back and to take the first steps towards a transformation in your midlife. This call is tailored for women in midlife that want to take action. So reach out. Spots are limited for those calls, and I can't wait to help you turn your aspiration into action. The link will be in the show notes for the Spark Breakthrough Call. With that, my friends, I'm out of here. And until next time, I'll see you on the Pursue Your Spark podcast. Ciao.